Cabin dream. We pulled into the driveway just before sunset. The drive was hot because my AC was busted, so we had to roll the windows down to get some airflow, which meant the music had to be extra loud. A quintessential summer experience, in my opinion. When the car turned off, parked in front of the quaint cabin, my ears were slightly numb and faintly rang from the mix of wind and loud music. It wasn't quite a cabin, really, more like a small house. One bedroom, I guessed as I stood there looking it over. The sun was now touching the horizon, and I could see its reflection in the lake. I decided I would try to get unloaded before it got dark, which probably only gave me about 7 minutes. I was always doing that, challenging myself to little games, trying to beat an imaginary internal countdown, or trying to get something right in only so many tries. Anyhow, I got unloaded and sat all of my bags in the living room. I was wrong, the house wasn't a single bedroom. I stood in the doorway, taking the space in. There were actually no bedrooms at all, just a living room that the front door opened into, a kitchen with a back door straight ahead, and a small laundry off to the left side of the kitchen. There was a hallway to the right, sort of between the living room and the kitchen, but it only contained a bathroom and a little furnace closet. How strange. I tried to think how all 4 of us would sleep. With there only being a couch and a loveseat, 2 people would have to sleep on the floor. Oh well, it didn't matter. The 4 of us, me, Hunter, my brother Aaron, and my brother-in-law Jadon, we were here to drink and fish and swim, not worry about bedtime semantics. I'm sure we'd be well lit before bedtime anyway, and no one would really care who got the couches. The only furniture was the 2 aforementioned couches and a coffee table, a small breakfast table with 4 chairs in the kitchen, and an old resonator guitar that leaned against the wall in the living room. I picked up the guitar and examined it closely. It was gray and had a steel bulb protruding from the sound hole. It was unbranded, but felt expensive. It wasn't even dusty, and the frets were worn like it was played often. The strings weren't rusty either, as they tended to get on a guitar after about 6 months of sitting. Someone took care of this thing. I thought I felt a warmness in the neck, like there were a pair of hands that had just set it down before I came in, but I was pulled from my thoughts before I could realize it. I was being called back to the front yard to take a shot of vodka. This was a fishing trip, but in all honesty, it was mainly a drinking trip with some fishing on the side. I left the small, strange house and walked to the driveway where our vehicles were parked. The crickets and tree frogs were beginning to pick up and drown out the other sounds of the night, as the sun was now fully under the belt of the lake, and it was time for the night critters to sing. I took a couple of swigs and smoked a cigarette before suggesting that we head in to check out the guitar I saw earlier. You see, when we drank, it was mostly music and singing and jokes and laughter. Sometimes we'd play cards or dice, but mostly it was always centered around the enjoyment of music. When we'd get too drunk or too loud, then we'd go to sleep. Maybe we were pseudo-alcoholics, but it was our 20s and we never drank on the weekdays. That was my rule, you know. Only the weekends, so I don't turn into my parents, I'd say, like it was a joke. But I only joked to play off the trauma I felt around the subject of my childhood. Anyway, we came back in, and Hunter picked up the guitar and began to pick out a soothing jazzy tune on the mysterious guitar. As he did, I felt the hairs on my arm prick up, and goosebumps set in as the air around us felt electric with tension. He didn't stop playing, and what looked like a projection appeared in the center of the living room. It fizzled into reality like an old static TV set powering up, color fading in slowly. It was a man dancing to the music that Hunter was playing. He was life-sized, and the more Hunter played, the stronger the image got. After about 10 seconds, it was as if a real live person had fabricated out of thin air and was dancing before us. He was decked out in fancy 1950s clothing, complete with a fedora, like he was dressed in the exact tone of the song that Hunter had made up on the spot. Hunter then looked up from the guitar to see what we were all staring at. Alarmed, he picked a wrong note and stopped playing altogether. The second he stopped picking the guitar strings, the man fizzled out again and disappeared. No one moved, staring at one another in shock, mouths agape. At first, we thought it was cool, maybe even funny. Someone yelled, "No fucking way, dude." "What the fuck was that?" said someone else. I couldn't tell who was speaking. My brow was furrowed in deep thought, trying to figure out what I had just witnessed. Thinking maybe something was strange about the guitar, I told him to put it down. Then I went back out to the car to grab my Bluetooth speaker I had forgotten. I walked back in the house to everyone still sitting in disbelief, staring at the center of the living room where the man had only just been dancing seconds ago. I don't know what I was expecting to happen, but I connected my phone to the speaker and set it down on the kitchen table. I clicked shuffle on my playlist, and a heavy metal song began to thump. Jadon was apprehensive and put his hand up in warning. "Hold on a minute," he said, wanting to process what had happened. Just then, the metal singer and guitar player formed in the living room, performing out the song that was playing to a crowd that wasn't there. I was startled before, but now I was starting to feel like this was a parlor trick of sorts, and that there was nothing really to fear. I walked around the musicians, as everyone else remained still and staring. I leaned in close to them, but they didn't notice me at all. They couldn't see me. I walked back to the table and paused the music. They fizzled out just like before. Now I felt like we could take a second to talk about it. We started by passing around the bottle of alcohol, exchanging theories about magical building materials used in the house's construction, or a hex placed on us by the gas station attendant 15 miles back. Someone even suggested we were all asleep, but after pinching and slapping ourselves, we decided that we were, in fact, awake. After a few more shots of vodka and another cigarette outside on the porch, we piled back in the stuffy house and decided to try something else. Hunter connected to the speaker and played a pop song by an attractive female singer that featured a prominent ex-boy band member. We watched as they materialized in the living room and began to sing and dance. I remembered seeing the music video somewhere on TV and said out loud that they were acting out the same choreography. We passed around the bottle again, good and buzzed by now. I stepped closer and stuck my hand out to touch the beautiful singer, and to my surprise, I felt her skin. I yelled over the music that she was real, but no one seemed to hear me. They were all having the time of their lives, like kids at a magic show. I can't say I felt any different. I was immersed. I saw Aaron drag the back of his hand softly down the singer's cheek as she sang a slow and serious part of the song. Jadon walked up and put his arm around the man who was duetting her. We danced with the singers and sang loudly as we passed the bottle around again, starting to really have fun now. In the chaos, I noticed that there was another figure dancing with us. Not the two singers, not one of my friends that had come, but another figure. Someone I hadn't noticed was with us before, but I didn't feel as though they didn't belong. In fact, I felt as if they had been there the whole time. I stopped dancing and stared at the figure in the kitchen who, just like the others, didn't notice me at all. I realized that he was only halfway materialized, not like the others. It was a man in a wide-brimmed hat and long, scraggly brown hair flowing out from under it. He had on pointy black cowboy boots and a leather jacket with chains that jangled when he danced. He wore accessories like they were going out of style. Rings, bracelets, bandanas, necklaces, a wallet chain. He was tan-skinned and wrinkly, though not quite old. He almost looked like Steven Tyler from Aerosmith was fresh out of prison and had a deep suntan. Just before the song was over, he stopped dancing and locked eyes with me. He fucking sees me, asterisk, I thought. He tipped his hat and smiled as the song was over and everything went quiet, taking the apparitions with it. I took this moment to pause the music before the next song played, so I could ask if anyone else had seen the man. They hadn't. They were also drunker than me and wanted me to play someone hot, so they could watch her dance. I warned you we were in our 20s. I mentioned that we were actually able to touch the singers and that they felt real. Someone said they touched the last singer's tits and they felt real. We all laughed and passed the bottle around again. The next song played and I looked around to see if the man would show up again, and he did. About 45 seconds in, he faded into the kitchen again. I took note that his appearance was slightly brighter than before, not so much half-existing. He was starting to form a little better. This was a short song, about 2 minutes, and it stopped before I could point out his presence to the rest of the group. The next song played. It was very much a party song that you'd hear in a club. The man appeared again and jingled his way toward the living room like he was arriving at a party that he threw himself. This time, instead of dancing on his own, he got closer and joined us in the living room. I shouted over the music, with a light-hearted smile, that this was the bloke I was telling them about. They all put their hands in the air and shouted, "H-E-Y-Y-Y," and welcomed the new member to the dance floor. They offered the man a shot of vodka, and he obliged. I saw that he was fully here now, totally materialized, and that I had an uneasy feeling about him. Like he was a loaded gun with a hair trigger that would explode if dropped on the floor. He brought tension to the room and had a bit of an evil smile. He wouldn't speak, but he would drink and smoke. As the night went on, so did we, playing song after song. The music changing genres and artists, but the same man showing up to dance with us. As we started to get close to the bottom of the bottle, it went quickly between 5 grown men. The music got louder, and we started to forget the strangeness of our situation. The man had a static shock of a touch when he would come up and put his arm around our shoulders. His cold skin made my spine shiver. He started to become more aggressive in his manner, standing on the wooden coffee table and stomping to a song, nearly splintering the wood. I don't like that kind of drunken violence, whether aimed at a person or not. When someone gets drunk around me and starts to break things, even in the heat of a really good song, I start to feel a little familiar twinge in my chest. A cringe of unsafety, a reverberation of my childhood when my parents would drink. I paused the music and suggested that we go outside to smoke, the man fading away with the music. Everyone agreed and we shuffled out onto the porch. It was then that I realized we were one less. "Where, Jadon?" I asked to multiple shrugging shoulders. We were good and drunk by now. We all looked around and saw no one. "He probably went to sleep somewhere, the bottle's pretty much gone and he had his fair share," Hunter said. I silently agreed. He probably did go to bed amidst the chaos. It was around 1:30 a.m. and I was starting to feel sleepy too. I closed my eyes and listened to the forest sounds of the night. There wasn't a house or store for probably 10 miles in any direction. It felt nice. I thought I heard the guitar being played in the living room and figured Jadon was probably in there picking at it for fun. We all knew how to play at least a little, but I'd been playing since childhood. I turned around and looked through the screen door to see a wide-brimmed hat pointed downward over the guitar. In the kitchen sat the man, with the guitar in his hands. I snapped my fingers urgently at the boys and desperately waved them over to the door, looking back to make sure I had their attention. When I looked back inside, the guitar was sitting in the chair, but the man was gone. "He was fucking right there, dude," I said with passionate fury. The music wasn't even playing, but they didn't really care. "We were all drunk," they said. "You should probably go to bed, bro," someone said. I was swaying back and forth and they were slurring their words. I never slurred my words. I sometimes would sway, but I never slurred. Neither did my father. I had seen him drink gallons and still speak normally and drive himself home. Something I inherited, maybe. I said whatever and joined everyone back inside. Jadon was still MIA, probably snoring some. Aaron walked over to the table and played a classic rock song, and we all began to bang our heads to the chugging beat. The man appeared in the kitchen, nodding his head also. I forgot about my surprise and alarm when he had appeared without the music, and we had a good time. When the song was over, I didn't even notice that he stuck around while Hunter picked the next song, remaining there without any music playing. I went outside to pee off of the front porch and came back in to see Hunter dancing to an EDM song with the man. "Where, Aaron, he go to bed too?" I asked. Hunter turned to me with his eyes closed, wearing a smile, and shrugged with his hands up. It was about that time of the night, and I knew this is how it usually happened. We all staggered off to bed one by one, leaving the rest to party until they passed out somewhere too. That's why I wasn't too worried about the sleeping arrangements. The sleeping arrangements. I sobered up almost instantly, spinning around frantically, looking for my missing friends. Where the fuck are they? There's no bedrooms for them to sleep in. Where the fuck are they, bro? I yelled as I opened the bathroom door and flicked the light on. Nothing. I ran quickly to the laundry room door and flung it open, busting a hole in the drywall with the doorknob. The EDM music still pulsed in the kitchen as I stuck my head in to see the floor covered in blood. I saw Jadon and Aaron with open, dead eyes, laying lifeless slumped against the dryer. I backed away horrified, wishing I was sober. I turned around in the kitchen to see the mysterious man hanging on Hunter's back piggyback style, holding on by a string to his throat. He was hanging by his throat, Hunter's face purple and eyes bulging. I sprinted to his aid, but it was far too late. The man dropped Hunter's lifeless body and lunged toward me, scooping up what I now realized was his guitar from the kitchen chick. He picked the instrument up by its neck and slung it around his head, wielding it like an axe. The body of the guitar came down hard on my face, and I collapsed to the ground in a heap. The man let out a cackle of a laugh and reared up the wooden splinters and came down on my head again. It was the first time I'd heard his voice. It was like nothing I'd ever heard. Like a screech and a scream and a soft, soulful song at the same time. It was haunting and bone-chilling. I faded out of consciousness as he continued to beat my limp body with the shattered guitar. His howling laugh drowned out by the rhythmic beat of the EDM music.